Welcome to another episode of Talking Statamic, the podcast where we talk with developers, agencies, and people who use Statamic every day. I'm your host, Michael Leroy. This episode is sponsored by Simple Commerce, the add-on for Statamic that gives you everything you need to build flexible e-commerce sites for your clients. Check out the link in the show notes and the description. Today, I'm joined by Vin Thomas, the founder and creative director at Fixel. Welcome to the show, Vin.
For having me, Mike. Great to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and tell us about your agency, Fixel?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Vin. I run an agency called Fixel. We specialize in websites primarily for tech companies, really even specifically for cybersecurity tech companies, really in that B2B space. And we build marketing websites. We've been doing that for 15 years. So in November here will be 15 years. And I've been leading the team here for that time, primarily as a designer for most of the time. But over the last several years, we've been growing the team a little bit, and I'm a little less in the production work, more in kind of creative direction and leading the
Mm-hmm.
team. And yeah, really excited to share how we've started to weave Statamic into our tool set and workflow. Our team really loves using it, and excited to chat Statamic with you today.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for being here. And what a great milestone. 15 years, that's a long time. I'm sure you've seen a lot of change in, all kinds of things in the design and web development landscape in that time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, when I started out, I remember I was evaluating platforms like Joomla and Drupal and
Mm-hmm.
WordPress, and like seeing which one of those would be the best fit. Whereas Statamic wasn't even a thought in anyone's mind at that point. But yeah, it's been quite the journey, and excited about where we are and where the future is taking us as well.
Yeah. So what platforms did you lean on the most in those days?
To be fair, I actually did mess around with Joomla for a little while.
Okay.
There were a lot of like really good Joomla templates like back in the day, and as someone who was just dipping my toe in the water, kind of having a good starting point was nice. But the more I kind of got into it, I really found WordPress to be a platform that was had a lot of excitement and community growth, plugin development.
Mm-hmm.
As I kind of started learning how to actually develop sites myself, I really kind of dove in on the WordPress front. And I mean, this is 2006, 2007. So
Okay.
early days, WordPress looked even quite different than it does today. But yeah, WordPress was it. And to be fair, we actually even still use WordPress today
Yeah.
as part of our tool set. But yeah,
How did you get into working with, tech as your ideal client? Like, did it sort of happen naturally, or kind of like, did you fall into it, or was that kind of an
yeah,
intentional choice on your part?
I'd say like most things in life, it was kind of a mixture of both. When I started Fixel, we worked with all sorts of different clients, really just kind of anyone who had a budget and and needed design work
Yeah.
done. And so we were doing real estate, we were doing education, we were doing mom and pop shops, and started to kind of form a bit of a reputation on platforms like Dribble and Twitter, in the
Mm-hmm.
design community, and kind of in that space, there was a lot of excitement around tech and these new startups that were popping up. And so we did a handful of tech sites early on in Fixel days, and even before Fixel, like as I was just kind of freelancing. And so early on in the journey, we had started doing some websites for tech clients, and one of the clients that we did a site for is a company called Distill Networks, which is a
Okay.
bot prevention tech company. And we started working with them when they're brand new, and they blew up, got acquired, and that was like this early win for us. But the great thing about our years working with them is their whole marketing team ended up scattering to other cybersecurity companies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when they needed design work or development work, they say, "Hey, I know a great company," and they pull
Yeah.
us in. And this is now over the last 12, 13 years, I think, since we last worked with Distill. And to this day, in fact, we're just wrapping up a site right now for one of the guys who used to be on the Distill
Wow.
team, and we've probably done 6 or 7 sites for him. And once you do a dozen or so of these sites in this niche, you actually realize, okay, I have a bit of a playbook here. I have some specialized knowledge. I understand what kind of workflows that they'd
Hmm.
be looking for on the content editing side, and so really kind of gave us a unique edge when we were just starting to work with cybersecurity companies. And now that, like I said, that's like our primary niche. I'd still say, we do other types of work, from brand to education to
Hmm.
interior design. We just did a site for an interior designer, but I would say 70% of our work is going to fall within that B2B tech space, and even more specifically in the realm of cybersecurity.
Okay, so how did you get into working with Statamic then? If you've been working with, starting with Joomla and getting into WordPress, like what prompted you uh, to look into Statamic in the first place?
Yeah, so it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Our development director had been working on some Laravel projects that we were doing at Fixel, and just really loving the Laravel ecosystem. And so, uh, like I said, most of our work is building marketing sites. And so, when a marketing site came up, Galen, who also,
Hmm.
he said, maybe you should look at Statamic. It's a really cool platform. I've been messing around with a little bit. In fact, he had been messing around with it since like pre V1
Wow. Okay.
Statamic,
Early
right?
days.
And
Yeah.
yeah, early days. But I think at that time it was a little less ready for prime time. But as things had progressed, he goes, I think this could be a really good option for our clients. And he kind of sold me on some of the benefits that he saw, as far as speed and performance, security, definitely, and just the kind of development workflow. And so I said, well, let's give it a try on a small project. And we did. And the client was just so happy with the experience. It was really smooth on our end. And so we did a larger project for that same client, built that one on Statamic, and that was, again, wildly successful. We kind of found a flow that worked for us in Statamic, and so now it's really kind of becoming a go-to option for
Mm.
us when it comes to CMS selection, particularly for the certain types of projects that we build. It really does often seem like a great fit.
What is it about Statamic that makes it a great fit for those kinds of projects? Like, is it particularly the clients, or are there like features that help to sell it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's probably a couple things that initially, when I have the conversation about like why Statamic, like why even bring this into the conversation, the ones that we'll often have are going to be about speed and performance, right?
Hmm.
Because just the nature of Statamic as a flat file CMS, we can have a much faster site, and that'll have so many benefits down the line, from just user experience to even Google ranking you higher for having a faster site.
Yeah.
And so speed and performance is a huge one, but because we work primarily with cybersecurity, the other one that we often have a conversation around is other CMSs, particularly ones that are going to be database driven, are particularly vulnerable to SQL injections, as a common kind of attack vector. And so, just working with cybersecurity companies that care a lot about security,
Hmm.
yeah, Statamic has some inherent advantages there that they really enjoy. And I think that one there is probably the easiest sell if we're talking to a technical
Yeah.
client. And then if we're talking to someone who maybe is more like a content editor or manager, then even just the workflow for content editing, once we give them a demo of Static, it all seems very familiar and
Yeah.
intuitive. So yeah, they really like it.
So are those the kind of primary things that you'd feature like when you're pitching it? You talk about security, you talk about performance, and the user
Yeah,
experience.
yep, exactly.
So do you get clients coming to you asking for Statamic already, or is that
Yeah.
is there more of a limited awareness still when you have to sort of pitch that to them?
It- So I would say that most people that we talk to have no idea that Statamic exists.
Okay.
And so most people that we have a conversation with, that's it. That's a new tool. Now, the nice thing is we have, I think, 9 Statamic builds now under our belt, and that of some sites that are incredibly large and
Yeah.
successful, that have been running now for years, and so we have these really great case studies we can look at and say, look how well it's working here. And so I think that's great when we have the conversation with a client who maybe is less familiar. But with the growing awareness of alternate or alternative CMSs, or even the growing interest in alternative CMSs,
Hmm.
we've seen a handful of clients coming to us specifically looking for Statamic development. And
Wow.
part of
Okay.
that is because we market ourselves as a Statamic agency. We mention it all the time when we're talking about our work. We mention it in our case studies. We
Hmm.
have a dedicated landing page on our site talking about our Statamic work. We are a certified Statamic agency partner, so we're obviously listed in the directory there, and get inquiries for people who are specifically looking for Statamic. But I'd say still that would probably be a little less common than us bringing the topic up to a client when we're having the discussion around CMS selection.
Yeah. So like 9 is a pretty good number to have under your belt and out there in the wild to see. Like, do you have any, are there any like standouts for you, like case studies that like these are highlights? I mean, you said a few of them are actually been running for years now.
Yeah, so we did one of the first Statamic sites that we built. Definitely one of the first larger Statamic sites that we built is for a security company called Clarity, and it's
Hmm.
CLAROTY.com. And we built this site for them in Statamic, managed it for years. This is truly thousands of pages on this
Yeah.
website because they've got tons of resources and integrations, careers, use cases, all sorts of pages that we built for them. And they just absolutely love the Statamic setup. We worked with their marketing team for years. And just last year, they had grown to a point where they're like, hey, we're hiring an internal team. They
Hmm.
hired a Statamic developer, Chris Plum, who's a
Awesome.
fantastic Statamic developer. In fact, we were even able to help them vet a, developer
Yeah.
for the project. So it was really cool, and still like a lot of goodwill between us and them. In fact, I was just looking at their website earlier today just to kind of see, we haven't touched it in a year, and they're still using the infrastructure that we had put in place for them. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'd say that one. We probably our most recent Statamic build is Pomerium.com. So that was a really fun project. We did full design, full development, brand, motion graphics, custom navigation, iconography, like tons of landing
Yeah.
pages. So it's a real robust site, and again, all driven by Statamic, and then their content editing team and marketing team is all super happy with the platform, and finding the editing experience really great as well.
I know you're not the tech guy over there, but do you know if those websites they're all flat files or any of them leaning on the database system?
Nope. So we don't have any that are database driven. Yep, all flat file.
Awesome. And even with the ones that are like thousands of pages.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's a pretty neat testament to
Mhm.
to the benefits of it.
I believe. Let me say I believe so.
Okay.
Again, I haven't touched that site in over a year. So if they've
Yeah.
made a change, I'm unaware. But
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. How would you say that like your agency has benefited from having Statamic in your toolkit, in terms of having it as a product offering for the clients? Like, has it benefited your team in terms of its production speed in development or anything like that?
yeah, and I'd say that our developers are all really excited to be working in Statamic. It's just it's a really flexible tool, really easy to work within, and definitely when you're coming from another CMS that maybe feels a bit more constrained, just the speed and flexibility at which we're able to work in Statamic is feels like a breath of fresh air.
No doubt. Yeah, I find one of the things I love about it is I don't feel like I'm fighting against the framework to build something. Like it's way more intuitive as a developer to get what I need in my template. Hook into
For
it with
sure.
JavaScript if I need to.
Yeah.
It feels so straightforward. Do you guys have any custom tools? Like, do you have your own starter kits or add-ons that you use for your projects, or are you kind of working with it like sort of a vanilla install every time?
So this is something that we're actually in the process of developing right now. So I will say that for years, we've had what we call Fixel Kit, which is a starting place in Figma for
Hmm.
design, and this has a bunch of um, kind of starting points as far as components. So think like resource grids and testimonials and heroes and all
Sure.
the
Yeah.
common elements that
All
you
the
would find on
usuals.
a site. Yeah, and we've built those all out in kind of like a minimally styled kit that we use as a starting point for all of the work that we do. And now, granted, we always go in and are doing custom iconography and typography
Yeah.
and color and making changes to that kit. But as a starting point, that really helps us streamline new projects on the design side. And you just mentioned, uh, it's a lot easier to develop within Statamic than it is other platforms. And that's one of the things that we're working on right now is like taking this design kit that we've built, this we call it Fixel Kit,
Hmm.
on the design side and really building a Statamic counterpart to that so that
Yeah.
not only do we have a great starting point on design, but once we have gone in and customized that we have a really good starting point that kind of mirrors the design file as well to help us move at quicker speeds. And so right now, we are basically just starting each project and building it bespoke for each client. But we are actively working on developing some tools here to even speed up that workflow, and we're really excited about that.
Can you talk about the sort of client satisfaction end of that? Like you mentioned that some of your clients have been like super excited with the end result. Has that speed of development um, contributed to that as well? It's like you can get your project done faster, that sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. Get the project done faster, but even on the client satisfaction side, and I won't name any names here, but if they're listening, they'll know. We have one client who has told us, I've thought about leaving the company, but I would hate to go to have to start using another CMS again.
Oh man.
Another CMS, right? Like just because they really love the editing experience in Statamic and have found that is so effective for them in managing their own website and feeling really enabled to make the changes that they need to make, but also trust that the platform also is going to be able to support that as well.
Yeah. Do you find that when you're pitching Statamic, the topic of having a license fee comes up? Is that an obstacle at all, or are you able to talk about do you compare that to WordPress is free, or for example, but there's hidden costs that come with it? How would
You
you talk
know,
about that?
we don't. If I'm being honest, we don't talk about the licensing fee at all. What we do is we just build it into our proposal and we
Hmm.
eat the fee. And we do obviously have in our contracts that licenses for Statamic, the costs are the responsibility of the client if for some reason we stop working with each other.
Right.
But as long as we're working with the client, we just eat that fee as part of our ongoing work. And then it just doesn't even become a talking point. It's such a minimal fee too, as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think for if you were talking about, hey, maybe a cookie, side hustle job that you have or something. Yeah, maybe, what is it, $250 or something like that, becomes a consideration. But I think for a B2B tech company, that's not going to be a stumbling block for them.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of a drop in the bucket in the grand scope of a website project. So I think that sounds like a good approach to me.
Well, if we really want to have the conversation, I mean, you can make up for inefficiency in a few hours of increased efficiency. You'll make up the entire cost for a license for a year, right? So
Oh yeah.
it's to me it's negligible and easy to justify.
And would you say that that helps an agency like yours with its profitability? I mean, you're a business, so you want to make sure it's working for you guys. Would
Yeah.
is that helpful for you using a tool like Statamic versus the WordPresses and Joomlas?
You know, there's a couple ways that I could think of uh, Statamic helping us when it comes to profitability. One, it just makes us that much more efficient as a
Hmm.
team, right? And so when we're more efficient, we can take on more work, and our clients are happier when we're more efficient. And so I think there's on that front something to be said. But then also, just having a tool like Statamic where you do have these benefits like that we've talked about, like the speed and performance and the security and even the growing add-on ecosystem that's existed now within Statamic. Yeah, I mean, definitely, we've seen increased efficiency on our end. And so when we're more efficient, we are more valuable to our clients. We're able to get stuff done faster. They're able to work at a faster speed. We're able to output more work in less time. And
Hmm.
so overall, it's a win-win.
That's a great way to put it, I think. Do you see any gaps in the Statamic ecosystem at this point that you'd like to see developed?
Yeah, I think one of the one of the things that I feel like there's probably opportunity would be when it comes to add-ons.
Hmm.
There's some really great add-ons that exist there. Some that we use often, and some that we've even developed that we use internally for our own clients. That being said, it's definitely going to be smaller of an ecosystem compared to some of the more established CMS players in the game. So, like when I think about WordPress, for example, some of the plugins that we would typically use would be, let's say, Yoast SEO, right? Well,
Right.
there's a similar solution, in Statamic, but maybe for something like Events Calendar Pro, which
Okay.
is a pretty robust plugin with
Yeah.
tons, fully featured. You're probably just not going to find a one for one that exists in Statamic. And so
Mhm.
I think when you're thinking about room for growth, definitely that add-on ecosystem would be something I'd love to see grow and even contribute to.
Do you have any that we'd want to specifically work on yourselves?
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe we need to build a Statamic Calendar Pro or
There
something.
you go.
Just like, yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Where would you like to see Statamic be in the next like 5 to 10 years? Do you want to see it like um, taking on the bigger players in a more significant way, or do you like that it's sort of the small, scrappy kind of niche player at the moment?
I feel like Statamic has a really good reputation. Whenever I hear Statamic mentioned, it's in a positive light. And so
Hmm.
I love that. I think if there's, something that could help us as an agency would be just more brand awareness, right? And so
Yeah.
in just helping, in the little ways that we can to make Statamic known is something that we try to do. Other developers in the community, of course, you with your video series and now the
Hmm.
podcast, like I feel like there's a strong community, and we need to be advocates for Statamic because it is a great platform, and I'd love to see it continue to grow. But yeah, maybe just brand awareness. Like I said, tooling would be great. Like this,
Yeah.
add-on ecosystem would be great to see that grow and expand. I know there's like some themes and starter kits that exist. That's something that we've talked about. Possibly dipping our toe in the water there as well. But I think I think they're on a good trajectory. Like definitely active development. The community's great, and so I say like let's just onward and upward.
Yeah, for sure. What does the future look like for Fixel with Statamic, do you think? Do you think it'll take over as your, primary tool for your client work?
Yeah, like I think as we've been working in Statamic over the last, I think it's probably 5 years now. It's definitely becoming more and more our go-to CMS we're evaluating that with client. And so I would say right now we're probably about 50-50,
Hmm.
on whether or not we choose Statamic as a platform, and that is only increased as we've seen the benefits on our end, and we're able to more
Yeah.
confidently speak to the benefits of Statamic. So I would say, definitely, we have three new projects that we're working on right now. Two of them are Statamic, one of them's not. And so, I would say like um, that is a conversation that's becoming a little easier and easier to sell with each successful project that we launch.
Yeah.
And of course, the clients who come to us specifically looking for Statamic, it's a very easy pitch at that point. Um, but yeah, I mean, definitely continuing to build our portfolio and helping our clients be successful on Statamic, and always happy to be working in that system. The final product's always great, and
Hmm.
I don't even feel like we've hit the limit of leveraging Statamic to the full potential. I know there's a ton of different ways you can use Statamic. We're just excited to be here.
Yeah, right on. And that's a great testament to, well, both to you guys and the success that you've had with it, and to the tool itself. So it's great to hear some real success stories like that. So, and congrats again on the 15-year milestone. Way to
Yeah,
go.
thank you.
Okay, so before we wrap up, we obviously have to tackle like the life's, super important questions. Um, as a fellow Canadian, or are you a closet Canadian?
No, no, no. So I spent 19 years. I grew up in Canada, in Calgary, but now I've lived in the States more than half my life. So,
Hmm.
but I
Hmm.
still proud Canadian.
Yeah, right on. So anyway, that's my segue to, the whole pineapple on pizza question. Obviously, the Hawaiian pizza originates in Canada. For those of you listeners who didn't know, um, fun fact. Um,
Yeah.
where do you stand? Pineapple? Yes or no?
S- You know, Growing up, we would always have two pizzas.
Hmm.
We would have cheese, and then we would have pineapple on pizza. And
Well, not even pepperoni.
not no, I grew up vegetarian, believe it or
Oh,
not.
okay.
Yeah, it's like yeah. And my mom and myself were the cheese lovers, and
Hmm.
my sister and my dad were the pineapple lovers. So for me, it's a no.
Hmm. Okay.
What
I
about
was
you? I sense disappointment.
well. I've kind of waffled over the years. When I was a kid, I didn't want anything sweet on my pizza. Like, give me all the savory stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, as an adult, that's shifted a little bit. There's one restaurant in Vancouver where I love their Hawaiian pizza, and that's the only place that I'll eat it. Um,
Hmm.
so if you want to know, ask me in the comments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep it a secret for now.
Nice.
Are there other Canadian staples that you miss out on? Do you think?
We definitely don't have poutine down here, so
Hmm.
that's when we make it up there. My kids, they always like, oh, let's get poutine. So we always find places there. I remember as a kid, I would be able to go. I don't know if they still do this, but I'd be able to go to Burger King and get
Oh
poutine.
yeah,
It was
pretty
like,
sure they still do. I haven't
yeah,
been to Burger King in years, I don't think, but yeah, I
yeah.
think it's
Oh, that
probably
was
still
that
on
was
the
a
menu.
staple for me during high school lunch. But
Awesome.
yeah, the other one, we would always go to Wendy's and get the fries and ask for a little side of mayo, and we dip our
Oh
our
man.
fries in mayo. And that was one that when I moved to the States, people were like, "What are you doing? Like that's disgusting." It's like, but yeah,
My friends would always get the fries and dip it in the Frosties.
oh yeah, 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 that's the best.
Classic, classic.
Yeah,
Those are the college days, good old days.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, as a designer, do you have a favorite font?
Ooh, that one's hard. I mean, we use Plus Jakarta Sans on the Fixel
Hmm.
website, and I really like that font. It's great. I mean, you kind of can't go wrong with Inter, which kind of seems to be like
Hmm.
the new Helvetica, right? Like
Yeah,
and a super versatile font. Yeah, I really like sans serif fonts, but I don't know. There's
any
so many
fonts
good
that need
ones
to
out
be
there.
retired, like this needs to go away,
Yeah.
like I've had enough.
So I'll tell you one that when I see it, then I used to love it, but when I see it hurts me now, and that's Proxima Nova.
Okay,
Proxima
yeah.
Nova is such a like I have a soft spot in my heart for Proxima Nova because I used to use it all of the time.
Hmm.
But it's been played out. That one needs to go.
Yeah, for sure, especially when it's like ultra thin that you can barely see it.
Yes, I know. Yeah, yeah.
um, do you guys have a favorite like tool or like plugin shortcut that designers should know about?
Okay, so let me share. I'm gonna rapid fire you here. Okay,
Okay.
so clean shot. If you don't use clean shot, that's great for taking screenshots. I use Loom all of the time.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's really, it's not a design tool or anything, but I just use it all the time with our clients. I use Screen Studio. So
Oh yeah.
Screen Studio is a new app that I just downloaded, and they have like a lifetime license, but it's really cool for making like video walkthroughs. And so starting to use that a
Yeah,
bit
I use that
more.
one on for my YouTube channel. I'm using Screen Studio. It's a great tool.
Yeah, it's good. It's really nicely designed. Um, let's see. I mean, trying to think if Color Slurp. I use Color Slurp, which is like this little menu bar where you can like kind
Hmm.
of eye drop any color super easily. I use like let's see. I use what is it called? Um, what is the name of CSS Peeper, the Chrome extension?
Hmm.
If you haven't used CSS Peeper, it's really cool. You can just click this little extension, and it will tell you all the fonts that are being used, pull out all the colors. It'll reveal all the assets that are on a page. So if you're looking at a site for inspiration, that's a nice one there. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any others. Yeah,
Awesome. Those
yeah,
are all great
yeah,
tools.
yeah,
Thanks for mentioning those.
sure.
Um, last but not least, where can people go to find more about Fixel?
Yeah, so you could go to our website, wearefixel.com. Dun, 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 dun. And you could also hit me up on LinkedIn. That's probably where I spend most of my time. Is not most of my time, but most of my social
Yeah,
time,
sure.
like social media time. I kind of have been mostly off social media, but LinkedIn seems to be a good place.
Well, that's where we actually met in the first place. I think I
Yeah,
left a
no,
comment
totally.
on a Statomic post or something, and then you replied to me, and boom, a connection was made. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
turning
yeah,
into kind of
that's
an interesting platform that way.
Well, it's funny because like I feel like 10 years ago, like when I was earlier on in my career, I just like LinkedIn, ugh, gross, leave me alone. And I wanted to be on like Twitter and Dribble and like all these cool platforms and stuff. But
Yeah.
now that starting to get a couple gray hairs on the beard, I'm like LinkedIn's not so bad. So like and I've actually made a ton of really great connections on LinkedIn, like yourself, and a lot of the people that we've worked with throughout the years have been from LinkedIn connections, and so a lot of the clients we find via LinkedIn, and just kind of interacting with people who are kind of in the space that we work, and so yeah, LinkedIn's great. Vin Thomas, search me up, add me.
Right on, right on. Make sure those links are in the description and the show notes. So I think that's a wrap. Huge thanks to Vin Thomas for being our guest today. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast player or on YouTube if you like to watch instead of listen, and leave us a review. You can follow us on X at Talking Statomic. We're over on Blue Sky, and you can join the mailing list at talkingstatomic.com. Thanks for listening and watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.